Ms. Gray out there? Ms. Gray?
She was when I just came back in, Judge.
I do not see her. She might be around them.
I think she may have moved when they were bringing the defendant and they cleared the hallway.
Yes.
Jury entering.
Good afternoon, members of the jury. Please be seated. I will call Ms. Gray to the stand, resume her testimony.
Just watch your step.
Hi, Ms. Gray.
Hi.
You can have a seat. We're going to resume your testimony now. All right, go ahead, Mr. Valentis.
Ms. Gray, I'm referring to the post that you testified to on direct in response to the prosecutor's question with regards to Lauren Kanarek officially being told to leave. Did you personally, at any point, tell her to leave prior to that text message?
I do believe that at some point I said, if you're so unhappy, then why don't you leave? Yes.
Okay, and do you know approximately when in time that was made?
I don't recall.
Now, prior to that text, were you involved personally with Michael in contacting an attorney to start legal proceedings to get them out?
Yes, sir.
And what's the name of that attorney?
Stephen Tarshis.
And did there come a period of time, approximately a month, where the father was in Europe and everything was stalled?
Yes, sir.
Who was the person making all the decisions based on your interactions with regards to Lauren Kanarek and her staying on the farm?
Michael and the father? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes. When you say the father.
Lauren's father.
What did Lauren's father do as far as this situation? Strike that. I'll
Hold on.
withdraw the question.
Withdraw the question, please.
Okay. Was it Lauren's father who negotiated everything with Michael, to your knowledge?
Let's just, do you know that fact? Were you present during the negotiations?
No.
Okay. With regards to those postings that you talked about on Cross, did you ever see Michael Barisone break down in response to what he saw on those social media posts?
Yes, sir.
And can you describe some of those instances to the jury?
He continued to become more and more fearful, to unravel, to be in panic, sheer panic. To say we were concerned or worried is an understatement. But as things escalated day by day, his deterioration increased.
Did he ever break down and literally get into a fetal position?
Yes, sir.
You witnessed that.
Yes, sir.
Now, you were asked about a number of pictures at the stable area. After you fled the farmhouse with Michael and your child, you were living in that club room that was depicted, correct?
Correct.
And that's a pretty, right there. That whole room is surrounded by wood, ceilings, walls.
Yes.
The office is surrounded by the same thing, wood.
Yes, sir.
Big, heavy doors, wooden doors, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, did there come a time when you believed that your private conversations were being recorded?
Yes, sir.
And when was that?
I would say when we had moved up there, so the end of July going into August was when we determined that was happening.
And how did you make that determination?
Lauren would text and taunt Michael over things that only we had discussed in private.
Things you discussed in private in the club room,
Clubroom and office.
the office where the safe is?
Yes, sir.
And when Lauren would post something on social media, did she always keep it up, or would she delete it?
A lot of times it would be deleted. Some things were left up, yes.
Okay, but other things were in fact deleted, correct?
Correct.
And at times, did you take or try to take screenshots of those things to document the exact words that were being said?
Yes, sir.
Now, were you present on the 4 occasions that Michael Barisone called 911?
Yes, sir.
On August 31st, when the police arrived, did you personally hear him say,
Objection.
No, Mr. Belinkus.
Right.
Sustained.
you were present for each time he called 911, correct?
Correct.
And I'm not asking you what was said, but he had a conversation with the police on each occasion, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Did you personally see him try to show them some of these posts or screenshots?
Yes, I
or-
did.
And what was their reaction?
They did not take it seriously.
And what effect, if any, did you observe those interactions have on Michael Barisone?
It made it all a lot worse.
Did it make it worse for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, the prosecutor talked to you about the type of person Michael Barisone was with regards to his business, specifically that, how he ran his business. You indicated, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that you expressed concerns with regards to how Michael Barisone was conducting his day-to-day business operations, correct?
I did, yeah.
Was Michael Barisone in a fragile state of mind running the business at that time?
Mr. Belinkus. Let me see that sidebar, please, for a minute.
Ms. Gray,
Yes,
first of all, before I ask you the next question, you said that Michael Barisone was in a fetal position. Did that happen more than once?
yes.
How many times?
It could be quite often.
And was he depressed?
Yes, sir.
Was he severely anxious?
Very much.
At any point in time when you saw him going through all of this, did he ever become angry?
No,
Have you ever seen any violence displayed by Michael Barisone at any point in your relationship with him?
no, sir, no violence.
He yells a lot sometimes, correct?
Correct.
Now, did those things, those specific things that you just described with regards to his reaction to these events affect his ability to run his business?
Yes, very much.
Affected his ability to make decisions at times?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
gonna
Yeah,
object.
that's Mr. Belinkus. I'm not sure if you want to get into specifics about it, but, you know, you're asking her to opine on the defendant's state of mind in that question, so the objection's sustained.
Now, the prosecutor asked you questions with regards to Michael's divorce from his wife Vera, and showed you a specific text message. To your knowledge, does Michael have a good relationship with his ex-wife?
Yes, sir.
So when he talked about having to pay her $900,000 plus in that text, do you believe he held any animosity towards her based on that?
Judge, can we be heard at sidebar? I apologize because I know the jury is here, but.
All right, questions being withdrawn by Mr. Belinkus.
Now, the prosecutor asked you questions about George Morris and the Safe Sport band. Do you recall those?
I do.
Now, did Lauren Kanarek file a complaint against you with
Yes.
Safe Sport?
Yes, sir.
And how did that turn out?
Objection.
What's the basis for the objection?
I don't know what the relevance to the outcome of any of Safe
Yeah, what
Sport's
is that?
findings.
Her knowledge of Safe Sport, and it relates to the testimony of Mr. Morris.
Oh, I don't see it relevant, what the outcome of it was, or the nature of it.
Now, there's been testimony on direct that you sent Safe Sport hundreds and hundreds of pages, correct?
That's correct.
Did you have any contact with them by way of email
At what time?
at any point in time prior to the incident?
I did. Yeah.
To your knowledge, in your presence, did Michael have any contact with Safe Sport by email?
Well, not Safe Sport directly for either of us. We were talking to Sonia Keening on email.
Okay. And again, did you sometimes draft the emails for Michael?
Sometimes, yes.
I'm going to show you Defense Exhibit 1000B and refer you specifically to number 274. May I approach that?
Yes.
May I approach that?
Yes.
It's great. I'm going to show you D1000B and refer you to a specific email on August 3rd, number 274, and ask you to read this whole thing.
Okay.
To herself?
Yes.
Out loud?
No,
yourself.
to yourself.
Okay.
Do you recall helping Michael draft that email?
I do. Yeah.
Judge, I'd like to introduce that and read that email at this time.
I would object.
You have a copy that the court can see?
I don't think I have a
Come
marked
up, come up
copy
the
of that,
sidebar.
Thank you. You indicated on direct examination that in July of 2019, that the relationship with Lauren Kanarek was toxic, unhealthy. Did you ever discuss personally with Michael Barison having Kanarek removed from the property?
Yes, sir.
And you've already talked about getting a lawyer involved, correct?
Correct.
Prior to August, was Lauren Kanarek's father in Europe?
Yes, sir.
to your knowledge, was he contacted with regards to,
By who?
by,
Again, this, with knowledge, that's, could be based on hearsay. If she contacted him, that's one thing. She's gotta have a basis for her knowledge.
were you there when anyone personally contacted the father?
Yes, sir.
Who contacted the father?
Michael Barisone.
Did he send the father?
Objection, Judge.
Well, I didn't even hear I didn't hear the question yet, so I can't rule on it. So let Mr. Belinkus finish the question, and then I'll rule on it. What's your question?
Were any of these postings sent to the father, to your personal knowledge?
Yes.
Now, you indicated that your father came up in the beginning of August, correct?
Correct.
Who asked him to come up?
I think both Michael and myself did,
And why did you ask your father to come up?
because I was terrified.
Did anyone else come up to the stable when things started to get toxic?
Yes, sir.
Who?
Dr. Ruth Cox.
And when you say Dr. Ruth Cox, is she a psychologist?
Yes, sir.
And that's the woman you said was sleeping in front of her horse's stall?
Yes, sir.
Now, after you started living in the clubhouse with Michael Barisone, did things get worse as far as the social media attacks?
A lot worse, yes.
And isn't it a fact that Lauren Kanarek would come up late at night with a flashlight to taunt you and the people in the stable area?
On
Judge,
occasion, yes.
I'm going to object to the continued use of the word taunting and
Right.
threatening. I've obviously
Yeah,
haven't
you can,
objected
yeah, I
every
mean,
single
that's,
time.
the witness hasn't testified about that. You can ask her what she observed
Okay,
herself from her own personal knowledge, but don't characterize it.
okay. Did you observe Lauren Kanarek coming from the farmhouse area up towards the stable area in the woods, turning her flashlight on and off?
I think that was Michael that saw that.
All right, we'll strike that answer then. If it's not the witness's answer, she has no personal knowledge of it. It's hearsay if it was told to her. So, members of the jury, please strike from your memory that last answer. You can't use it for any purpose.
Ms. Gray, with regards to the social media posts, did Lauren Kanarek use any of your private conversations with Michael Barisone and post them on social media?
Yes, sir.
You were asked specific questions with regards to your son and his relationship with Michael Barisone. Was Michael Barisone ever alone with your son, you not being there?
Not to my knowledge. Maybe in passing or, but we were always together.
No. Did Michael Barisone love your son?
Very much.
Objection.
Mr. Belinkus, this witness can't testify about the defendant's state of mind. You
Directing
can
your
ask her
attention-
about her relationship, but not Mr. Barisone's feelings about other people. That's not proper. Sustained.
Directing your attention to August 7th. Now, DCPP comes to the farm, correct, or stable area?
Correct.
Okay. You have a meeting with her in Michael Barisone's office, correct?
Correct.
And there, she told you that there was an allegation.
Objection. It's what, she can't
What's
testify.
the basis of it?
Hearsay. She can't testify to what somebody else told her.
Does Michael Barison heard what was told?
Mr. Belinkus, don't make comments. Come to sidebar.
DCPP, correct?
Correct.
Michael Barison continually opened the door and came in the office while you were talking, correct?
Correct.
Did DCPP tell you who made the allegations?
Just
No.
answer yes or no.
No.
Did she give you any indication who may have done
It's the
that?
same question.
It's different, Judge. She didn't give it.
You didn't give a name, but an indication. You're just asking the same question a different way.
Did she say anything with regards to who made the allegation?
She said it came
Oh,
from
that's,
the-
hold on. This is hearsay. Just answer yes or no. Did the DCP and P workers specifically tell you who made the allegation?
No,
Just
sir.
answer yes or
No,
no.
sir.
All right.
As you sit here today, are you afraid of Lauren Kanarek?
Objection.
That's sustained.
Did Robert Goodwin ever threaten you?
No, sir.
Did an incident happen on August 8th?
Objection.
Yeah, yes.
August 8th.
It's after.
That's it.
Day after the shooting, there was an interaction, Judge.
Between Mr. Goodwin and the witness.
Yes, and the father.
What's the relevance of that? Come up.
When you believe that your private recordings were your private conversations were being recorded, did you or Michael do anything with your knowledge to try to address that situation and determine what was going on?
Yes, sir.
What did you do?
We hired like a private investigator type person that did debugging to come to the farm and go through our office, club room, locker area to look for recording devices.
And strike that. Judge, I believe I'm done. Thank you.
Fine. Any redirect, Mr. Schellhorn?
Yes, Judge, if I may.
Yes.
Ms. Gray, you were asked about Dr. Cox coming to visit the farm in those days of August 2019.
Yes, sir.
Had she ever wanted to sleep in the barn near the horses before?
No.
She had never been warned not to sleep in the barn because it reflected poorly on the business?
I don't think she slept in the barn now prior to this.
Judge, if I could have a sidebar. I'm going to show the witness,
You mean a breakout room?
I'm sorry, a breakout room. Yes, thank you.
Breakout room.
And I'm going to show her S-171. And I'm going to direct your attention to line 5735. Is that a text message from Michael Barisone to you on December 7th, 2018?
That's correct.
And does that refresh your memory that the defendant told you, Ruth gave me a never-ending text about how she needs to be near Dee Dee, and how could I be so cruel to not let her sleep in the barn?
That is what that says, yes.
Judge, if I could also have permission to show the witness what's been marked as S-172.
Sure, in the breakout room, right?
In the breakout room.
Yes.
And I'm going to direct your attention to line 2043.
I don't see that, Johnson.
Is that a text message between you and Ruth Cox on December 4th, 2018?
Yes.
And does that refresh your memory as to whether or not the defendant had advised Dr. Cox no more sleeping on the couch or floor in the club room because it's an Olympic facility, not a trailer park?
That's
Judge,
correct.
Again, I object to that. It has nothing to do with the stable area.
Judge, the implication was that Dr. Cox was
Judge.
sleeping in the barn because she was so frightened and terrified, and this clearly goes to show that she had done that or wanted to do that on prior occasions.
This has to do with the
The club
clubhouse,
room.
Judge, and sleeping on the
All right,
couch.
all right, I get it. I sustain the objection. Move on, Mr.
Ms. Gray,
Shellhorn.
you were asked a number of questions about Mr. Barison's demeanor, I guess, in July and August of 2019.
Yes.
And I think you were asked a series of questions by Mr. Belinkis, whether he was depressed, severely anxious. Do you remember that line of questioning?
Today, yes.
Would you say, or would you agree, that the defendant had issues with depression or anxiety before Lauren Kanarek ever came to the farm?
Yes.
And at times, would he make statements to you indicating the extent of that anxiety or depression?
Yes.
And that was before he even met her?
Correct.
No further questions, Judge.
Did the interaction and what was going on with Lauren Kanarek exasperate those conditions?
Very much.
Were you afraid, based on that decline, that Michael Barisone was going to kill himself?
Yes, that crossed my mind for sure.
As late as when in relationship to the shooting?
The day before,
Nothing further.
All right, you may step down.
me?
Yes, thank you. I'll finish, Ms. Gray, thank you. All right, Mr. Shellhorn, call your next witness.
Judge, the state will call Justin Harden.
All right, Justin Harden. Please remain standing for a minute. Place your left hand on that Bible, Mr. Harden, if you would. Please raise your right hand and listen to my court clerk administer an oath.
Do you swear in the presence of Almighty God that the testimony you give to this court regarding this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Justin Hardin, Hardin.
Thank you.
All right, have a seat, Mr. Harden. Please keep your voice up nice and loud. We have jurors in the first two rows in the gallery. If you don't understand a question Please don't answer it, just indicate you're not sure or you don't understand, and I'll have counsel rephrase. Go ahead, Mr. Shellhorn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hardin, can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm Justin Harden,
And how old are you?
42.
Do you know Michael Barisone?
I do.
Do you see him here in court today?
I do.
Would you identify him by an article of clothing he's wearing?
Blue and red tie.
All right, identifying the defendant.
Where do you currently live, Mr. Hardin?
In Wellington, Florida.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about your own professional experience and what you do for a living?
I am a horse trainer and competitor.
And is there a specific discipline that you currently train and compete in?
Yes,
What is that?
dressage.
Can you tell the jury in your own words basically what dressage is?
Dancing with horses.
Have you ever ridden any other equestrian disciplines?
I have.
Can you tell the jury what those are or what those were?
Western and eventing.
And approximately how long have you been training and competing in dressage?
Approximately 22 years.
Now, I'd like to draw your attention back
All right,
to,
Mr. Shellhorn, something has come up I need to address. So I know it's early in the afternoon, but I do have to address it. My staff just informed me. So I'm just going to take a quick 5-minute break.
I
Okay?
understand.
All right. I said I was going to be quick.
Counsel, you can step back in.
Mr. Harden, just step outside for one moment, please.
Just watch your step.
Yes. I need to see counsel at sidebar when Mr. Belinkus gets back.
It's not in the whole judge.
He's on his way back from the men's room.
Yeah. Please.
Just watch your step.
All right, Mr. Harden, you may have a seat. Go ahead, Mr. Shellhorn.
thank you, Judge. I apologize if I already asked you this question, but I think I was halfway through it. But could you tell the jury approximately when you first met the defendant?
In 2002,
Can you tell the jury how you first met him?
I was applying for a job at his farm.
Do you recall which farm that was?
His farm in New Jersey.
What was the job that you were applying for at that time?
A intern, I'd say, working student.
What does that term generally mean to you?
It's it's an opportunity to learn more about the horse business and gain experience.
Did you get that job?
I did.
From approximately the time you got that job in 2002 until 2019, did you continue a professional relationship with the defendant?
Yes.
Did your role or job change with respect to the farm or working with him?
Yes.
How did it change?
It evolved over time.
In the summer of 2019, what was your position?
Assistant trainer.
Now, working there from approximately 2002 to 2019, did your business relationship with the defendant at some time become more of a friendship?
Yes.
Are you familiar with whether or not he owns any other farms?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury where that other farm or those other farms are?
In Loxahatchee, Florida.
Did you have an opportunity to work at both of those farms during the course of time you were associated with the defendant?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury the reason why the defendant owned two farms?
The winter season is a important competition time for our sport, as well as the weather.
And would it be fair to say that the winter competition is down south?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you a few questions about the nature of Michael Barisone's businesses. For example, was it common for him to board more than one horse at a time?
Yes.
Do you recall, with respect to the New Jersey farm, approximately how many horses there were stalls or living quarters for?
For stalls, there was 33, as well as a area for young horses.
And was it common for those stalls to be more or less filled with horses?
Yes.
Now, you indicated that when you initially came to work for the defendant, you were working as a working student.
Yes.
Was it common for him to have working students associated with the farm during the time you were there?
Yes.
What was the approximate number of working students that may be working at any given time?
It would vary, but I would say between 4 and 8.
Are working students paid?
Generally, no.
What was their, compensation, or what did they receive as a result of working at Michael Barisone's farm?
Living quarters and opportunity to learn about the horses.
Can you tell the jury what a riding clinic is?
A riding clinic is usually a 2 or 3 day period of time where a clinician or teacher will teach basically for the whole day a series of riders and horses. Generally, the clinician would be from out of town traveling.
Have you ever been a clinician at a riding clinic?
I have.
Are you aware of whether Michael Barisone has ever been a clinician?
Yes, he was.
Would you say that he did that with any frequency during the time that you worked for him?
Very much so.
You had also indicated that you are a competitor.
Yes.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about what a horse competition entails?
Our sport has a set time for your competition and a predetermined routine that you are judged on.
So you get the routine in advance,
Yes.
and then do you practice that specific routine with your horse?
Yes.
Are those events held at the farm or barn where you're training, or somewhere else?
Somewhere else.
How do the horses and the riders get to the location where the event is?
Owners either have own their own transportation, or they will have them shipped there commercially.
Did the defendant, or was the defendant ever involved with transporting horses for horses that were training at his farm to various events?
Yes.
And would that be something that the owner would pay extra for, or would it be included in the price of boarding and training?
In general, trailering was extra.
Now, with respect to the New Jersey farm, at any times when you were working there, where did you live?
On the farm.
And I'm going to show you, Judge, if I could pull up S-391, which is already in evidence.
Sure.
And Mr. Hardin, that's what's been marked in evidence as S-391. What do you recognize that to be?
That would be the New Jersey farm.
And can you indicate for the jury on this map the approximate area where the farmhouse is located that you indicated you lived in?
Do I point?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. They won't be able to see where you're pointing. There should be a pointer next to you, and we can try that. We'll see if it works. It might not work with this.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, can you describe the area? The jury has already seen this, so I think they'll know what you're talking about.
Okay, near the top left of the picture, there is visible the roof of a farmhouse.
And can you describe that farmhouse? How many levels is it?
2 levels and a basement.
Did you live on various locations or on various levels of that farmhouse over time?
Yes.
Where did you live when you began living there?
In the basement?
Did anyone else live in the basement?
Yes.
Who else lived in the basement?
Other assistants working there at the time.
And what was the general layout of the basement at that time?
Several bedrooms and a common living area.
Over time, as your role and responsibilities at the farm changed, did you move to another location in the farmhouse?
I did.
Where was that?
On the top floor of the farmhouse.
And what was the general layout or setup there?
It was a 2-bedroom apartment with a living room and a kitchen.
Do you recall approximately for how long you lived in that apartment?
Until the spring of 2019.
Do you recall when you may have moved up there initially?
Approximately 2004.
So you had lived there for a number of years.
Yes.
Now, with respect to S391, is it fair to say that that's the driveway going down the middle of the diagram next to the farmhouse?
Yes.
And in the bottom right-hand corner, can you describe, and if it's easier for you, I'm sure the judge would allow you to come down and point it out for the jury, if you could just describe what some of those facilities are in that bottom right-hand corner.
It's the main stables where the horses were kept, and the indoor and outdoor riding arena. Also on the very bottom right are the paddocks and the round pen.
And what's the significance of the paddocks and the round pen?
It's where the horses would spend their time outside. Some of the there's others, but some of the when they would spend their time outside, and the round pen was used for training young horses.
Are the various fields, and maybe I'll just start with, it looks like there are 2 green fields that are on both sides of the driveway, and then there's a 3rd green field sort of on the right-hand side of the diagram there. Were those part of the property?
Yes.
And was there anything done with those fields?
They were used for farming hay for the horses.
Is the driveway that goes down the center of S391 flat?
No.
And can you describe that for the jury?
From the street, the first part of the driveway is a pretty consistent incline, and then flattens out about a third of the way.
So based on your familiarity with living there for 15 years or so, if you were at the stable facility in the bottom right corner, are you able to see the farmhouse from there?
No.
Are you able to see any part of the farmhouse to know from an orientation standpoint where it is?
The very top of the roof.
And then I guess at the other side, if you were at the farmhouse, are you able to see from the farmhouse to where the stables and barn are?
No.
Now, you indicated that there's a stable and there's also an indoor arena as part of that big building there.
Yes.
What else was part of that big building? Or what else was in there?
There was a clubhouse with a kitchen and a common area, and also a workshop.
What was the general decor in the clubhouse there?
Farm, country.
Were there anything, or was there anything hanging on the walls or displayed with respect to some of the accomplishments of either Michael Barisone or people that he had trained?
Yes.
Judge, I'd like to show the witness a number of pictures at this point.
Are these new or are these in evidence?
These are new photos, Your Honor.
All
S 318, 319, 320, 321, 322, 323, 324, 325, 326, 327, 328, 329, 330.
All right, Mr. Belenkus, you've seen those photos?
Yes, Judge, no objection
All right.
to them coming into evidence.
All right, those photographs, I think it's 318 through 330 will be admitted into evidence. May be displayed to the witness and the jury.
Mr. Hardin, the first photo that we pulled up here is S 318. What is that a photo of?
That would be the center of the main stables.
Now, I think you indicated one end of the stable when we were just looking at the aerial shot was connected to the end with the club room and the indoor arena.
Yes.
What was at the other far end of the stable? Were there doors or anything else?
There were doors on all ends of the stable.
So there was doors on all ends, and this door that we're looking at a picture of in S 318, where is this door?
Would have been a side door approximately halfway down the structure.
And if you were to go out that side door in S 318, where would that bring you onto the property?
Onto the outdoor arena.
I'm going to go to S 319. What is S 319 a picture of?
This would be the far end of the stables, farthest away from the indoor riding arena.
And from the location where this picture is taken, what would be on the stables to the outside to the left?
The parking lot,
And what would be on the outside of the stables to the right?
the outdoor arena.
And is this the area where you indicated that you thought there were stalls for approximately 33 horses?
25.
25. Thank you. S 320 is what's S 320 a picture of?
This would be the other side of the first picture that we saw. So this would be a hallway looking out into the driveway.
Now that entryway just after the hallway out to the outside, what's inside there?
A wash stall for washing the horses.
And is this the opposite side?
Yes.
That's S 321, just for the record. We'll move on to S 322. Is it fair to say that generally these photos are coming down the aisle of stalls closer to the clubroom?
Yes.
And is the doorway that you see on the left there the wash stall you just mentioned?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to draw your attention now to S 323. Is this also a picture in that same hallway with all the stalls?
Yes.
And is this a picture of?
That would be a picture of the doors of the two tack rooms.
Those are the two white doors on the left?
Yes.
And where does that hallway go to?
Into the clubroom.
Straight ahead, it looks like the aisle sort of turns off to the left there.
Yes.
Where does that go?
Into the indoor riding arena.
On basically the center of this photo, what are those wooden objects in the center?
This would be cubbies.
And what are those used for?
Clients could store their personal items in there.
What are the big black metal objects in the middle of the picture?
Window grates for the stalls of the horses.
Now I'm showing you S324. It looks like we can see those stalls, the stall doors that you just talked about in the bottom right. And you just have to answer yes or
Yes,
no
sorry.
for the record. Thank you. On the left, are those more of those lockers or cubbies that you discussed?
Yes.
And those would be used by
Clients.
What is that white door straight ahead? Where does that go?
That would be the door leading to the clubroom.
How about the stairs on the right-hand side there?
That's leading to the upstairs above the clubroom.
What was on the upstairs part of the clubroom?
Storage, mostly.
Okay. Go ahead, Alex. All right, this is S325. This is a closer-up picture of the door into the clubroom. And I'm sorry.
Yes, sorry, yes.
That's all right. What are those pictures of on the right hanging there?
Horses in competition.
And are you familiar with who the riders are in those three photos?
Yes.
Who are they?
Michael, Mary Haskins, and myself.
And are you the person that got cut off on the top?
I am.
Nice horse.
And then we're looking at S326. I believe this door was closed in a prior picture.
Yes.
That, what is inside of that room?
It's the saddles and bridles for the horses.
And what's that room called?
Attack room.
And is S327 a photo inside of a tack room?
Yes.
That's S328. Is that just the other side of the same tack room?
Yes.
What is S329 a picture of?
It's the outside of the attack room.
And what are all of these objects that are hanging on the wall here next to the tack room?
They signify participation in international horse competitions.
And do you know who had earned every single one of those? I won't put you on the spot to ask you.
I don't think I could say for certain every single one.
Did you have any of those up there?
Yes.
And did the defendant, Michael Barison?
Yes.
Did Mary Haskins?
Yes.
And is it fair to say that there were others for people who had trained at the farm or been coached by Michael?
Yes.
And that's just for the sake of completeness, is S330 a picture of that other door on the other side of those awards?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hardin. Now, with respect to the club room, was there an office on the opposite side of the club room?
Yes.
Whose office was that?
Michael's.
Is it fair to say that after being at the property for the amount of time that you were, you had been in that office before?
I had.
And were you aware that there was a safe in that office?
Yes.
Who had primary access or control of that safe?
Michael.
Were you aware of the combination to the safe?
Certain times I was.
And then directing your attention specifically to August of 2019, do you recall being in the safe at all during that time period?
I do not.
Are you aware of whether or not Michael Barisone had any firearms on the property?
I was.
Can you tell the jury what your understanding or knowledge of that was?
There was a firearm in the safe.
Do you recall what type of a firearm?
It was a somewhat long, small gun.
Fair to say
Was
you're
it,
not a...
was it a handgun? When you say
It
a
was-
long, small
I-
gun, was it a handgun or a rifle or shotgun?
Two-hand shotgun, I suppose.
Okay, so like a longer gun.
Yeah.
A shorter version of a longer gun. Got it. Go ahead, Mr. Shellhorn.
Judge, I'm going to move into another topic here.
All
I
right.
can keep going, or if you want to take the afternoon break.
Well, why don't you go for another 7 minutes?
Very,
Give or take.
Very precise.
Give or take a couple seconds, 7 minutes.
Mr. Hardin, during the course of time that you were living and working at that farm in particular in New Jersey, are you aware of whether or not the defendant was ever married?
Yes.
And did his wife at the time live at the property?
Yes.
Are you aware, when that relationship was over, whether he had another relationship?
Yes.
And are you familiar with an individual named Mary Haskins Gray?
Yes.
Were Mary Haskins Gray and the defendant involved in a romantic relationship?
Yes.
And do you know if they were also involved in a business relationship?
Yes.
Did you know Mary Haskins Gray before she and the defendant started seeing each other romantically?
I did.
What was the nature of your relationship with her around the time when she and the defendant started seeing each other?
We were friends, but she lived far away, so we weren't close friends.
And during the course of time that Ms. Gray and the defendant started seeing each other, did she spend more and more time at the defendant's properties?
Yes.
Did that have any impact on your relationship with her?
We became closer.
Are you familiar with her having children?
Yes.
And at times, would her children come to visit or stay at the farm for periods of time?
Yes.
So besides yourself, the defendant, either his ex-wife or wife at the time, or Mary Haskins Gray, and the working students, did anyone ever live at that property with any regularity?
Sometimes students would come and stay overnight.
And I think we already heard some of this testimony, so hopefully the jury will forgive me, but with respect to running a farm, a horse farm, are there a number of vendors that come to the farm with regularity?
Yes.
Who might some of those vendors be?
Veterinarians for the horses, dentists for the horses, farriers or blacksmiths for the horses, as well as delivery of horse feed and supplies.
And it sounds like from the testimony you've already given that most of the clients or people who boarded horses there did not live at the property.
Yes, correct.
Were there any sort of gates or other obstacles to someone driving onto the property to get back to the barn?
No.
Now, when you and Michael Barisone were at the farm together at the same time, how frequently would you communicate?
Frequently?
And would that typically be face-to-face if you were both there?
Yes.
At times, did you discuss aspects of running the farm or business-related topics?
Yes.
Did you also discuss things that were going on in the equestrian world with each other?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about how involved you were with running the day-to-day operations at the farm? And I'm specifically talking about that summer of 2019.
I was very involved. I would take over almost everything on occasions when Michael would be away, but very involved in the day-to-day.
Are you familiar with the defendant having a website to advertise the business?
Yes.
And what was the name of the business?
Barison Dressage.
Judge, I'd like permission to show the witness S-74, which I believe has already been admitted into evidence.
Sure.
Mr. Harden, I'm showing you what's been marked as S-74 in evidence. Does this look like generally the logo you were familiar with from the website?
Yes.
And do you see a date in the top left corner of this of August 8th, 2019?
Yes.
And moving down the page, who's that a picture of?
Me?
And is that your name underneath the picture?
Yes.
And was there then, as we move a little bit further down the page, some information about your riding experience as well as some of the things that you have to offer as part of the business?
Yes.
I'm going to show you one more. And this is S71, which has already been admitted into evidence. Is S71 also appear to be a screenshot or the website with the date of August 8th, 2019 in the top left corner?
Yes.
And scrolling down, did this website, or this page on the website, indicate that to inquire about lessons or training, an individual could contact Mr. Barisone, Ms. Gray, or yourself?
Yes.
Now, during the times that you worked with Michael Barisone, were you ever able to observe anything about his demeanor related to running the business?
Yes.
What would that be?
Certain happiness, moments of happiness or stress during different times of running the business.
And when you say that, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit? Moments of stress versus moments of happiness.
Happiness would be himself or a student having probably a particular success in a competition or improvements on the stables, and stress would be students not doing as well as they would like to, or horses being sick or injured.
Did he ever have any stresses related to the finances of running the business?
I'm sure, yes.
Can you tell the jury, in your words, what Safe Sport is?
It's a organization that oversees a lot of sports and sporting activities, mostly for conduct and behavior, both bullying and protecting minors in the sport.
And is that something that existed at the time that you first became involved in equestrian or dressage?
No.
Do you recall approximately, if you recall, when that came to be?
Approximately 2016.
Is that something that you were required to do anything to be licensed or registered as a competitor?
You had to complete yearly online training classes.
Now, are you aware from August 5th, 2019, related to an individual named George Morris and a Safe Sport?
Yes.
Do you know who George Morris is?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury who George Morris is?
One of the most famous American show jumping riders and coaches.
And do you know if the defendant, Michael Barisone, knew George Morris?
He did. When
Safe Sport gave that punishment to him on August 5th of 2019,
Objection, Judge.
Your 7 minutes is up. We're gonna break now.
I'll
and
reformulate my question.
No,
at
well,
the
it's,
break.
it's, since there's an objection, rather than keep the jury, I'm gonna dismiss them for their afternoon break, and we can continue. I'll address Mr. Belinkis's objection. All right, 15 minutes. Thank you.